Whenever I hear the theme song of the show Friends, I feel some part of me get transported back to the mid-90s when Friends was at the height of its popularity, and I, like much of America, would tune in every Thursday night, or almost every Thursday night, to see what Rachel and Ross and Monica and Phoebe and Joey and Chandler were going to get up to. I wanted to see them try to figure out their jobs and money and their search for the one who they'd spend their life with, who they called their Lobster. And I think one of the reasons I was so interested in it is that I was in my mid-20s, I was single, I was living with roommates, I had the Jennifer Aniston haircut. And like them, I was trying to figure out my career and money and really desperately searching for my Lobster. But where the characters on Friends had this stability that came with the longevity of their friendships that supported them and grounded them as they were going through all the chaos of being in your mid-20s. In December 1996, I moved from Seattle to Silicon Valley. So in the summer of 1997, I'd only been there about 6 months. And without that longevity of friendship or longevity of job, there was some part of me that frequently felt a little unmoored. And underneath the surface, I had a whole bunch of really big existential angst and sadness going on. And sometimes it would bubble up, even though a lot of the time things were going pretty well. Well, one day that summer, my work buddy Lou and I decided to get together for lunch. And this was not an odd occurrence. We had lunch together pretty frequently and happy hour. I worked as the marketing communications manager for a tech startup. And it was a pretty demanding job. And Lou was my contact at our PR agency. So we talked almost every single day and regularly ended up having meetings to talk through stuff we were working on. And we talked probably multiple times a day for the 6 months I'd been working in that job. So if I resembled a Friends character at all, Lou didn't resemble a Friends character just as much as I did. He was close to 20 years older than me. He'd been married for probably 15 years. He had a 13-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old son. Before he started working in tech PR and journalism, he had gone to divinity school, and he regularly hosted prayer meetings at his house one night a week with a cast of kind of motley characters. But we sat there and we had our lunch, and we talked about whatever work stuff we needed to talk about. And afterwards, neither of us felt quite ready to go back to our office because it was a nice day. And we were having this lunch at this cafe in Mountain View called the Shoreline Cafe that's in the middle of this great big park that has an amphitheater and a golf course. And it's built over a landfill, so it's a really pleasant place to be unless the wind is going in the wrong direction. And it was not going in the wrong direction, fortunately, that day. So we decided to linger on a bench for a minute by the man-made lake where we could watch the sun bounce off the waves, feel it on our shoulders, and watch ducks swimming around. And as we sat there watching Lou said, "You know, I have to tell you something. I need to tell you that I love you." And I thought, oh shit, this man is not my Lobster. Is this another older man inappropriately hitting me on me at work? Because I kind of had already dealt with a lot of that. But he kept talking. And he said, "You know, and I don't love you just because you're my favorite client, or because you're witty and you're fun, or because you have these amazing legs that you never show off. I love you because I see you the way God sees you. And I love you the way God loves you." And again, I thought, oh shit. because if he'd been hitting on me, it might have been easier for me to process what he was saying. Because the thing is, in all that list of things I was thinking about finding my lobster and my job and money, you'll notice that I did not list religion. Because religion was the last thing I wanted to think about. About 2 years earlier, I thought I had successfully escaped from religion when I quit attending the Worldwide Church of God, which I had grown up going to almost every single week until I was 23 years old. And you'd think that having spent that much time in church, I would be prepared to have someone talk to me about God's love. But the problem is the Worldwide Church of God, they'd sometimes talk about unconditional love and call it agape love and how it was about the way of give instead of the way of get. And my cynical self wants to believe that most of those sermons were right before they passed around the offering plate because it was much more about what we should give to God than what we should expect to get back. And they spent a lot more time talking about prophecy and how the world was going to end. And if you wanted to be one of God's chosen few who'd be saved from the horrors of the apocalypse, you had to follow the rules. And if you didn't follow the rules, not only would there be the horrors of the apocalypse, but you might burn in a lake of fire and you might get excommunicated from the congregation, as all good cults will talk about. But so that version of love felt very, very conditional. You had to be good enough. You had to prove yourself. You had to be a certain way. And in my life, with the people who were in my life at that time, I often felt like I had to be good enough and be a certain way because, again, I didn't have the longevity with them. But here was this man who didn't seem like a friend's character, who wasn't my age, who was only a work peer, telling me that there was this love waiting for me that I didn't have to do anything or be anything in order to access. And I had no idea how to process this, but something in me, when he said these words, felt how much it mattered and how much I longed for it. And so, of course, I started crying. And not a pretty Friends character, Jennifer Aniston TV cry. I mean, we're talking full-on ugly mascara streaks down my face, sobbing, crying. And Lou gave me a shoulder to cry on. He hung out with me till I calmed down. I don't know what else we talked about that day, but I do know I managed to clean myself up and look somewhat presentable when I eventually did go back to work that day. And the thing is, I couldn't process everything he was saying that day, but over the course of the coming weeks and months and years, Lou continued to be a friend. He invited me to his house where I met his wife and his kids, and they invited me in, and I started hanging out there and going to holidays, and we built that longevity with each other, and I knew that what he said was true. I didn't have to be anything but myself to access this love from his family and share it. And that was very transformational for me over time, because I not only learned how to accept it from him, but he gave me a model to give that kind of love to more people in my life. So that when I eventually did find my lobster, Lou was the one who performed our wedding. And I'd like to believe I bring some of that kind of love into that relationship. But I do think that day was the start of me being fundamentally changed, all because my friend Lou told me and showed me that he would be there for me, just like in the theme song.